Okay, this is part one in a little mini series of ideas I'd like to share with you regarding landscaping your garden using items other than trees, shrubs and flowers. In the first part here is the use of logs and branches, which we came across a few years ago when we started. I had a neighbour down the road that had some big trees, I think it was a silver birch, cut down, and the guy who cut them down took most of the whole tree away, apart from a couple of large pieces he couldn't obviously lift. And I asked the neighbour if he wanted them. He says, no, you can take them. So I salvaged a couple of big pieces, and they fitted into the garden really nicely. This isn't one of them. This is from a neighbour across the road who'd cut down his conifers, and he left a couple of pieces on his front. And this is a piece I asked for a couple of years ago and put it out in the garden here, and it's naturally stripping its bark. It looks like conifers strip their bark quicker than some of the other trees. It exposes a nice smooth wood underneath. Obviously it just looks it's been stuck here, but if you can use your imagination, and in the future where you could have shrubs and flowers around and in front of it, that would fit in quite nicely and look very natural. Like any forest you've visited, you'll find fallen trees and branches, and obviously the flora and nature around it just grows, and that fallen pieces become part of the landscape. Now what I have done is raised all the pieces of the wood in the garden up on small pieces of bricks or rocks or little paving stones like here, just so that the wood is sitting in the damp soil, especially in the winter where it would rot a lot quicker, and this seems to help quite a lot. So that's one little tip to help your wood keep from rotting. We have a larger piece here, which is about 15 inches thick, and again you can see the bark stripping. There's a couple of big pieces like this which our next door neighbour was cutting down earlier this year, 2017, and my wife noticed them getting rid of the pieces and went along and asked, and neighbours kindly lifted them up for us and put them in the garden. So if I haven't already mentioned, the best part of this, that part of landscaping your garden, is if you keep your eye open, you can get these pieces for free. And as you can see, the contrast between the Japanese maples and the colours is very natural. Because one of the main objectives we discussed a few years ago when we started the garden and had a blank canvas of just long grass was we eventually went through stages and settled on Japanese garden themed, not an identical copy of a Japanese garden, but to take influence heavily from and incorporate it into our garden. And I'm not opposed to incorporating any other cultural element into the garden, as long as it looks natural and it looks right in the settings we have. That's fine by me. And what we discussed was that we had big plans for the garden and possibly get some sort of publicity in the future, obviously with myself being a photographer, and possibly doing YouTube videos back then, was to show people that and help people see that it doesn't matter what size garden you might have, whether it's just a balcony terrace or small courtyard, small yard, or a large garden, that it doesn't matter how much money you have, that you can do a garden just like you see on TV shows of gardening shows where they've spent thousands, that you don't need money to have a nice garden or a nice spot, because these few videos in this series will show you how to landscape your garden basically for free. And also I've talked about some of the Japanese maples we have, how we've picked them up on sale, very, very cheap. And as you can see, if you've seen videos of this little potted emerald lace, got this tree 2 years ago, and it was basically no one wanted it. It was for 99p, which is almost equivalent to the old currency of a dollar. There was hardly any branches on it. The leaves were all dying, there was hardly anything on it. So obviously the runt of the stock they had. When I came back home with it, and that year trimmed it, and now it's one of the best shaped Japanese maples in the garden. So that aim of creating a garden can be achieved for basically very, very little money. And I already have, and I will continue to show you where to pick up trees and plants and shrubs and landscape materials for free or for very little money, so you can achieve something special. Our goal also was just to basically create a garden where we could sit and enjoy and just sit in peace and tranquility. It was our own little paradise on earth, really, that we could escape to. No matter what is around us, you have the ability and the control to create your own little piece of heaven, your own little paradise. No matter what size garden you have, it can be achieved, and all it takes is a little bit of creativity and a little bit of imagination, and just basically keep your eyes open. Look out for neighbours who are throwing things out, like these logs and branches or rocks or any landscape material, or even plants and shrubs sometimes. Don't be afraid to ask, and put the word out to your friends, your family, your neighbours, and say, can you keep us out an eye open for some rocks, and look for some rocks, some logs, some free trees, free bushes. And there's always someone doing a garden and doing it their way, and what they'll do is they'll throw out a lot of things they don't need, like rocks, logs, even trees and bushes, because they like to start a blank canvas. And you know, that's a natural way of doing things, but another way of, if you're moving into a garden, don't rip everything out, just be patient, give it a year or so, and see how that garden looks in every season, and see what is in the garden. There might be some literally hidden gems in there. Say if you moved into a house in the winter, and you might have some bushes or shrubs that look like dead twigs, but come the spring and the summer, there could be the most glorious of trees and bushes you can imagine. Because I can imagine that with Acer Shirazawa, the trunk and the bark on that tree just looks like some ancient dead twig in the winter, It looks so ancient and old that you'd think it was dead. But come the spring and the summer, that is the most glorious tree in the garden. So be patient if you move into a new property and see what they have and try to incorporate, see what you can save and build around the best features in the garden. Again, that's another way of having a landscape that you build on for free instead of just ripping everything out. And so there's a couple of tips anyway. This is a almost 4-foot piece of silver birch from that neighbour I spoke about down the road, and this has been out for about 3 years now, I think, and it has not excuse me, it has not rotted one bit. Silver birch seems to be a very hardy, tough piece of wood that'll not rot for many years compared to some. This is a slightly different variety of the native tree. As you can see, the contrast works lovely with the Japanese maples. And again, just use your imagination of this tree, piece of log covered in flowers, ferns, Japanese maples spread around. It'll blend in a lot better, just looking like statues at the moment. Again, look, you see it's stripping its natural bark and leaving a lovely smooth wood underneath. But this bark here is ideal for insects, so you're out in the nature in your garden as well. This is another big piece, about 3.5 foot long, very heavy. And again, once the fauna around it grows in the future, that'll look very, very natural. This is the biggest piece, which is about 5 foot long, from the neighbours down the road, which had to use a wheelie bin. I just managed to actually put it in the wheelie bin myself by shuffling it in and wheeling it down the street. But I was more than happy to do that because it's a lovely piece. It is very dramatic. It's in front of the garden at the moment, and it's quite a bit of a centrepiece. All around it, it's just laid on a bit of slate bed and some bricks. Because this front part was an idea we cut out in this grass a couple of years ago, but it didn't really work. So this will get changed in the future. But you can see the impact of that log. It's almost like a shark. Reminds me of a shark, that. But use your imagination. And you can see that you only have 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces at the moment. And there's always room for little bits more. And like I said, it doesn't matter what size garden you have, just pick the right pieces. You can also try your local eBay, Gumtree sites for local people who might be getting rid of some larger pieces of bark and tree trunks. And also another idea, maybe if you live next to the coast, is driftwood. Driftwood works very well, and again, that's free. You can also use them as features as well. If you're very handy with woodwork tools, you could get this piece here, say, you could stand it up and you could cut out a waterfall feature and incorporate it as a water fountain, sorry. Like you see in the garden centres, that's made out of fiberglass. If you're handy, you could make that piece into a lovely waterfall had a little tiny little pump inside there, and you could have the water trickling down the inside of the bark, which could be shaped like rocks. You could use them as bird baths, where you could stand it up a smaller piece and cut out inside a couple of inches at the top, seal it up and then fill it with water, or a bird table where you could fill it up with food. So, you know, you just use your own imagination, and there's endless possibilities you can use. Anyway, that's the first series on the use of free logs to landscape your garden. I'd just quickly like to say thank you to the subscribers who've subscribed and left some nice comments.